UKLC is presented by Barclays and Curry's PC World.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the UKLC. We're getting ready to go into our second game of the day, MNM Academy versus London. Now, there's a lot on the line for both of these teams. It's not quite as high stakes as the last game where, you know, you lose and basically everything's out of your hands. But for London, a loss here could be the start of something really, really worrying for them. There is a chance that they actually don't make playoffs if they lose both their games today and other teams get 2-0 weeks. And for MNM, a 2-0 week would be fantastic for them. It would secure them a spot at the top. It's really something that London don't want to have to think about and don't want to deal with. So a win here it's massive for them. I believe at that point, if they win, they secure playoffs. Am I right? Am I still wrong? Is it that close still, but they need to win both their games
If they win both, I believe there are still scenarios where they'd have to play a tiebreaker or would have to go down the aggregate head-to-head, which I haven't worked out. I believe
we'll have to do the maths. We'll try and do the maths either
essentially because Demise, MNM, and Envision can all. No, MNM's playing next to MNM wouldn't be able to. I actually think they would have it then. Yeah, I think if they win this game, then both Enclave and MNM can catch them. So yeah, if they win this game, London are locked into playoffs. If they lose, there's a small but still possible chance they can get knocked out. Obviously, we saw the standings earlier. London have a point lead on Demise. Well, no longer Demise, but they did at the start of the week on Demise, Enclave, MNM, and Vision. So the spot is more comfortable, but it's still a bit precarious. If they do win this game, they are locked in the playoffs. I just worked out quickly there. And they also have a chance of catching up on Munster, because if they win this and they tie with Munster, they beat them in the head-to-head. Obviously, Munster still has games to catch up. Their last game of the day, they can obviously remain ahead. But they are on the heels of Munster. So London really are, looking to take this one to keep not only their playoff chances very real, but also a chance of taking first place.
And if you're MNM right now, a win here is great because tomorrow you play... Who do MNM play tomorrow? They play versus Barrage, who have only had 3 wins for the entire season. So arguably, it's an easier win than versus London. So a win here and a win tomorrow slingshots them into playoffs at that point. They are very happy and very comfortable. And for London, you know, a loss here knocks them out. But there's so many teams currently fighting for these last 3 spots in the playoffs. And if MNM can actually make it a 3rd spot, because if London win here, there's only 2 spots remaining. MNM could potentially open up the doors for all the other teams to catch up and make it to playoffs. So this game, I love this week. There's so much on the line. I love this week. Now, guys, it was a very quick one, but we are just trying to rattle through this. We're going to get into picks and bans, but before that, we do have a quick break. We'll be back in a second. See you in a minute. Hello and welcome back to the UKLC. We're getting ready to go into game number 2, MNM versus London. MNM are on the blue side, London on the red. We're already in. Expect to see Harry's Caitlyn get banned. It's pretty much standard stuff here. If you're London, you know how much is on the line here. This win is you making playoffs and guaranteeing the spot versus you having to continue to fight for your spot. It's not worth even letting it through. But for now, it's been the set, it's been the Kalista, and the Kazakhs all banned away. Gadunika's Graves is still open. Harry's Caitlyn is still open. There goes the Karma. We are rattling through this.
Yeah, going pretty quick. So Kazakh's seen quite a bit of a rise on the current patch with the buff to his isolated damage. Seen a little bit more of him in the LEC. Zoe, super powerful. Can obviously apply that early pressure. Whereas for London, it's more sort of these expected target bans. Set, the Karma, things like the Ashe and the Karthus are the first picks we typically see. Now, one thing that's a little bit dangerous, we know Golden God has played the Karthus bot lane. So MNM here, if you pass it over, we could see London just take that champion in this situation.
What do they want to do? The Caitlyn's open, the Karthus is open. There's a lot open right now. MNM as well also were the people who successfully used the Kog'Maw mid. They're not actually even going to go for that. They want to get Vango onto the Azir, onto as comfortable a pick as possible. So you can put that in the mid. So that is the first pick for MNM. And moving over to London, there's still plenty of things open. The Trundle, the Volley Bear. Lots of big picks here. We'll see what they want to go for.
So I feel like for London, this situation, if you're not concerned about the Karthus bot lane coming up from MNM, you could just go something like the Volley Bear. You could go a mid laner to match the Azir. You could potentially go like something fairly innocent, but instead they're going to go for the Ezreal in this situation. So saying they are not concerned about a Karthus pick coming out, especially with the Azir lock-in, can be a bit dangerous playing the Ezreal into the Karthus because he has so much priority. But ultimately in this situation, Ezreal denies the Azir-Ezreal combo that I've seen cropping up all the time. It's super hard to deal with just because of the range discrepancy against a lot of compositions. So they cut that one in half. They pick themselves up that gangplank for Bear Tree for a lot of scaling and the global ult pressure. And they are matched pretty quickly by a Senna Maokai. And this Maokai is a flex. This could go top lane. It could also be a fasting Senna with a Maokai. So it doesn't really cement anything in yet. But it does mean that MNM have a pretty strong team fight already.
It's actually quite a nice pick if you do put the Maokai on the back line. Sorry, in the bot lane, sorry. Because sure, you can shift away. But if he's already pressed that Twisted Advance on you, he's following you. And you're just going to get locked down on the tail end of that. And then Arcane Smash backwards. Chimera takes the Orianna as is a safe mid pick, but obviously has some team fighting and scaling available to it. And we're into ban phase 2. Now, what do London want to ban away? Are they convinced on where this Senna is going, or are they going to look to maybe ban away some of these AD carries from Harry? Harry, to me, always has been a big player for the hyper carries, the Aphelioses, the Caitlyn, you know, the people who get a couple items under their belt and take over late game. But for now, it is the Wukong banned away.
Yeah, I think you kind of want to reveal where the Maokai is going, potentially threaten one of the lanes in top or support and force them somewhere. I probably feel like since it's been played in the gangplank, I would expect it to be a Maokai bot lane. We'll have to see. And as you said, great into the Ezreal. Also, because he spams abilities so much more than other carries, you get your passive more. But for MNM, I'm looking at junglers as my thing to ban away. Nidalee specifically targeted at Warden. I would also like to see a Trundle ban. I think that Trundle does well into the fact you have a Maokai. Means he has at least, even if it's support, it's not as good as top lane, but it's still a somewhat decent target to ultimate. And on top of that, I feel like London right now are lacking frontline for their composition. Obviously, they can take a support to offer some of that, but I think Trundle would match their composition really effectively. Great at kiting, great at that front to back that we saw in the last game. So I expect that to come out from MNM. London just going to go for the Volley Bear ban in this situation, which is, again, strong, powerful pick, can be flexed between top and jungle. And that's a lot of the power when obviously you already have that Maokai as a flex. Actually seen the Shyvana banned away from Warden, so a bit more targeted. Does deny the potential of a lot of poke power paired with the Ezreal. For me, I think London could just comfortably take the Trundle here, but maybe they're going to wait and see. Pick something for Raisins in this situation because they're essentially gambling on the fact they think it is the Maokai bot lane.
I also have to be a little careful that Gadunnika doesn't just pick the Trundle up for himself now that they've picked up the Bard and left that open. Gadunnika still got his Graves open, something he's had, I'd argue, some of his best success for MNM on. And we are going to find out where this Maokai's going.
I think Gray's kind of fallen off in terms of priority. I think he hasn't really been changed much, but just teams are not picking him up as much unless they're in good situations. I think his range discrepancy would be a massive issue here, so I don't expect him. And as much as Trundle is fine and a decent denial, I think he favors London's side better than MNM's side. Now, Kennen going to come out. We've seen a lot of rise in priority for the champion. You have the range to handle Beartree on this gangplank, and the team fighting threat, the backline threat is absolutely massive. So you can pair up with that Maokai and look to threaten those. You have the Azir who has a long range when he uses his piercing soldiers, and on top of that, the Senna can ult across too. It looks like we might just end up getting that Graves in this situation.
It does offer that consistent AD damage, but they're kind of lacking. Senna's fairly slow on the auto attack, so I do like it. Again, it's a good performing jungler for Gdanica. He can obviously farm up a Storm as well on this champion. Does a really good job of keeping pace. And now London, what do they want to go for? Do they want to pick this Trundle up to deal with the Maokai? Obviously, things like the Nidalee that normally keeps pace with the Graves is banned away already. Same with the Shyvana. So London, ball's really in their court to round out this comp with a solid jungle pick. And they're actually going to go for the Lee Sin for Warden.
Not big of a fan of this, in all honesty. The kick's useful against the likes of a Kennen. But I think for me, the Trundle would have fit in better. Just good skirmishing against the Graves. Really powerful at kiting backwards. And the pillar's just so good at disengage. If you do see Aragon charging forwards, you can throw that pillar down. Makes it very difficult for anyone to follow up with just a huge slow. So this suggests to me that Warden's trying to take a lot of agency in this game. I feel like I would have preferred the Trundle in this situation, but preference comes in a long way. And you can see from the bans away from Warden, he is the sort of player who likes to take the game into his own hands, look to challenge enemy jungler. Now, for me, I think London have the edge in terms of scaling. I think their composition's great at kiting back, even without the Trundle. I think MNM, they want to be looking to sort of dive this backline, but they have a lot of tools that can snowball pretty effectively if given the opportunity. But ultimately, I want to see them forcing skirmishes, using the Maokai to set fights up, and then just chaining together the CC and the damage.
Oh boy. Again, another really important game with some pretty interesting drafts. Harry actually stepping away from the hyper carries and going for the Senna. Obviously does have an arguably a very, very interesting bot lane with the Maokai, the Starving Senna or the Fasting Senna even. It's going to be the Grasping Undying build as well, so it's going to be that more tanky Senna. So it's definitely going to mean that Gdanica is going to have to take over as far as the AD threat for the team. Aragon on the Kennen. We saw only Angel last week on it. Was it last week or the week before? He was playing a lot of Kennen at least 2 weeks ago. And the flanks into the ultis at the Dragon Pits were just massive and game-changing. There's a lot of team fighting tools to arguably both of these teams, but I think in just a strict 5-on-5, if the Shockwave goes wide, MNM should just run through London in a team fight.
I mean, I feel like to an extent, but they need to find those angles, you know?
Yeah.
If Kennen gets kicked away, if, Ezreal's be able to kite effectively, there's a couple of Baron chains and an ultimate, I could see London handling things effectively. I really think
you've got the Bard as well to disengage.
I think that the agency is a bit more on MNM to sort of find those situations, unless the Hyperfed and Azir can just do whatever he wants. But this backline is the concern for MNM. You're looking at the likes of an Orion and Ezreal. There's a lot of peel potential from, Beartree and Raisins. You have to deal with these carries on the backline, otherwise things could get a little bit tricky. Because even with the Graves, the sustained damage output just isn't quite as good for the side of MNM. And there's a lot of situations where I could see them not getting the damage on the right targets, because if Aragon doesn't get the good backline access, if Vango is not able to get soldiers on an Ezreal, which by all means he shouldn't in most scenarios, Golden God can just keep pumping out damage.
Well, we're taking to the Rift for MNM versus London. London, one win away from securing themselves a spot at the top and securing a playoffs position. I didn't want to say spot twice there, so my brain had to try and find another word. London are one away from securing themselves a playoff spot.
You could have said securing playoffs, but you said securing a playoff.
Oh god,
I'm like, a whole playoff? Wow, amazing.
A singular playoff. They have to play more than one playoff, unfortunately. Actually, not unfortunately. Unfortunately for them, but for us, it's a lot more fun. A lot more games.
Wait, did you not see what the format is?
It's single win. Whoever
rock,
wins.
paper, scissors.
Yeah, okay. There's no League of Legends.
Yeah, no, so every player on every team, we're going to get into a video call together, and then we're going to do rock, paper, scissors. And it's just going to be like rock, paper, scissors, battle royale. And whoever's left wins. Not that team. That team doesn't win. They specifically win.
So you don't even have to win your matchup. You just have to win one rock, paper, scissors.
Yep.
Well, here's a little hint. Gdanica always goes rock. So make sure you prepare paper, guys.
Yeah.
It's a bit of drafting advice for you on that one.
Just in case anyone is wondering, that is not... It's close, but it's not exactly our playoff format, so you don't have to worry. Just in case someone's freaking out right now, like, really?
Could you imagine if someone actually believes that?
I think it's my deadpan's pretty good is my problem, right? It takes a while to realize when I'm being sarcastic. I'll see if you can work it out, Jake, right? You're a good caster. Was that sarcasm? Was it not?
You're being incredibly sarcastic right now because you...
See, I've worked with you
long enough.
I'm glad you're able to figure it out.
I've worked with Orcs for so long, but if he insults me, I know he's being... No, sorry. If he compliments me, I know he's being sarcastic. Even if he doesn't really mean it.
It's just inherent.
Can't believe I'm stuck with you. This is what I get for not getting you a birthday present.
Exactly.
And I'm glad I didn't.
But that's implying I wouldn't do this if you had got me. I probably still would have, in all honesty.
My birthday's at the end of next month. I'm expecting stuff.
So you're expecting me to get you a present when you didn't get me one?
Yeah, I'm like one of those sweet 16 brats.
Okay. In more ways than one, but...
All right, let's focus on the game. Fasting Center actually having a pretty early shove versus the Ezreal. Kind of expected, realistically. You have a lot more AoE in that lane to deal with, and Ezreal obviously going to have to spam the Q as much as possible to try and clear through the waves as quick as possible. Bear Tree, though, is able to shove in Aragon early, as Gdanica has been spotted out. Vango is waiting over the wings, though, to make sure that if anybody does collapse onto him, he's nice and safe. And Warden's on the other side of the map anyway, so he's just going to go pick a crab up on that side. Both the junglers did a full clear of their bot lane, so these invades aren't actually going to result in anything. The Warden only just made it to his crab, so Gdanica a little bit up in pace for the moment here on the Graves.
Yeah, a bit more farming power on the champion. And you can see that Aragon did play pretty back in that scenario. Actually, was thinking of going for a cheetah recall, but opted not to. So we now see that Bear Tree did go for the reset, has got the item advantage, and Aragon just simply moved away from the lane and then sat back because he was afraid of a gank. Didn't get an item. And it's a pretty big engage here.
That's what happens when the shift goes down. You just get focused out.
Yeah, we were talking about how the Maokai is really powerful in that if you shift away, he follows you. That doesn't mean you shift into him. Not a good plan. And ultimately, Harry's CC did not connect there. So it could have been a lot worse in that scenario. Now, Aragon's been a little bit precautious, afraid of Warden, and now at an item disadvantage, does kind of want to shove this wave in so he can reset it and buy himself. Graves is heading up to the top side to offer some assistance, but his jungle has been warded out. And this is the difference between Warden's invade and Gdanica's invade. So really all Gdanica got was, oh, okay, his camps are down, cool. Whereas Warden actually got some vision down that is going to be relevant.
Oh, here comes the journey gank. They do have the pool to get to safe zones as Harry's going to pop it. Warden jumps in forwards as Dreampire locks one down. Harry on the run, though, gets ignited. Has to jump away as Dreampire now next up. The chains do connect from Harry, though. Dreampire dodging away on those skill shots. MNM able to disengage, but Flash and Heal burnt from Harry. Golden Raisins also burnt some summoner spells themselves, though. This could just result in an early Mountain Drake for London.
In terms of what you're getting from the lane, very even in that scenario in terms of summoners burned. But the advantage for London is that they now have HP lead. They're able to go towards this dragon and threaten that. Now, mid priority has been achieved by Vango, so he's walking down. They could see a contest here.
Yeah, Dreampire teleported back in as well. They get the blind off. They get the slow zone.
Warden.
And now Warden, he's in the camp. Everybody jumps in, shuffles first blood.
Thanks for the
Thank you very much for the Drake as well, as MNM get a dragon and a kill.
Yeah, a bit ambitious. I mean, you saw the TP coming in from Dreampire. You saw Vango moving. Ultimately, I think London committed to the play when they didn't have the setup to do so. The gank in bot lane was a little bit messy. You know, they didn't get the stun off on a Harry. They didn't get the kill. And I think going for that play was just a bit too ambitious. And now you've given the Drake over to MNM, and they have that kill lead. So a good position for their side.
Yeah, really, really solid start here for MNM. They're able to shove a big wave into Golden God as well. Double tier has been picked up for the London mid and AD carry. Does mean obviously their relative power spike is going to be a little bit slower for the moment. Obviously it does give you the scaling options for both of these champions, and tier is pretty much a staple for Ezreal and Orianna these days.
Things I want to highlight is the CS differences mid and bot. Now, I know Ezreal's ahead of Maokai, but typically in these lanes, you often see the sort of person taking the farm when it's fasting center end up falling behind a range carry. So the fact that he's this close in CS is actually pretty good. I've seen much bigger differences, but the bigger one is mid lane. Vango is resetting now, and he's still massively ahead of CS compared to Chimera, and he's going to arrive here and pick up this wave. He's been doing a lot of work on this Azir, and I think Vango is someone who I've given a lot of criticism to in the past couple of weeks. He had a really tragically bad game on the TF, but he's looking good so far in this one against Chimera, who has been a solid force in a lot of our matches. Now, we do see the lane stop coming out. It's a little bit early for the Herald, but it does mean they can get set up, and Aragon just has to kind of defend under tower. It is a somewhat tricky dive against a cannon due to the ultimate, although he is a little bit squishier than potentially some other targets that do end up going in the top lane.
I actually think this is a little bit of a godsend for London. MNM swapping this early will mean that they're going to get some plates. They're going to funnel a little bit of gold onto Golden God. And sure, they may lose Herald off this. In fact, I almost guarantee they're going to lose Herald off this, with Vango having Prio in the mid lane and top lane also shoving in. The 2 plates already picked up for Golden God. He's been able to get himself a nice amount of farm and swing that gold lead back in his favor. It's what MNM are going to do with this Herald is what's worrying. How much are they going to be able to gain?
I think the threat is now on Aragon because we have Lee Sin with the ultimate available. We're seeing Raisin's reset. So what we have is we have the Gangplank ultimate and we have the Bard ultimate. Both are great at stalling Heralds out. The Bard ultimate can actually stop a charge if you get there in time. And the Gangplank ultimate can clear out a wave pretty effectively. So if Bard gets here in time, we could see him ult. I think he's a little bit too far away.
Just about. Oh, it's close. It's not going to happen.
But the thing is,
right, the tower, though.
Yeah, that was a very, very early Herald, though. And with the Gangplank ultimate, that's enough just to clear the waves. So, you know, there's two sides to the coin. If they'd used the Herald later, then Brazen's would have been there to block the charge. But by using it so early, there was just no way they ever took the tower. And right now, we're pretty even in terms of plate trading. But MNM committed to move their lineup to the top side to get the Herald. And they didn't really get anything out of it, I would say, other than an equal trade. So London have navigated this one pretty well overall.
Yeah, I think they've done a really good job. Golden God's been able to pick himself up some solo farm. Plate will crumble here in the top wave, but no one's actually close enough to pick up the gold, so that's just lost 160G. Resets are going to come back in, and the swap is going to go back down as Harry and Dreampire make their way towards the bot lane. Aragon, fresh off a base, got himself the Kindle Gem, building towards that Proto Belt. He's going to make his way up towards the top lane as Vango remains in control of the mid lane. This is the one steadfast lane for MNM. Vango is consistently shoving Chimera in, consistently taking over this lane for himself.
I think one thing you want to look at, though, is the cost of that swap. We now see, I was talking about how Dreampire and Golden God were pretty close, Dreampire a bit behind. It's now about, it's a bit more, it was about 13 CS before he started taking them there. And if you look at the top lane, we are seeing an almost 20 CS lead for Battery over Aragon. That was the cost of swapping around, missing those waves, has resulted in London getting quite a big CS lead in those two lanes. Now, obviously, as you said, Vango is maintaining his, which is significant, but
they're actually swapping again. They really want to put Aragon as behind as possible.
I'm really confused about this. Because Dragon's spawning in 15 seconds.
Yeah, this is actually a free dragon. Gadonika's making his way up as well.
What are they playing for?
They're playing for a kill on Aragon by the looks of it. They're leaning everybody up there, but Aragon's just going to step away. He's losing a lot of CS on the back of these plays, but this is just giving Dragon Soul a real win condition over to MNM.
Yeah, I mean, that's the counterpoint, is that not only are MNM getting plates, but they are also getting the dragon, whereas London are just getting plates. So it's like, why trade like that, in all honesty? Maybe they're scared about matching MNM head-to-head at the moment. maybe they're scared about fighting without the cannon barrage, but it seems very weird to me. I can understand making this trade if you had the cannon barrage to clear out the wave. I mean, they are going to be able to do that, so maybe their plan was trade up in gold, but it's an ocean soul, which is super valuable. You're essentially trading evenly in terms of these plates, so I don't know. I just feel like this is a mistake from London. We said they navigated well before. This seems a little bit suboptimal.
Cannon barrage comes down to clear out the wave. Bertree can actually get blinded, jumped onto. They have a lot of damage to work with. The railgun gets fired. Bertree CC'd for days as Gdanica gets him the collateral damage. Wave's going to be a bit of a ways away, so they're just going to proxy for the moment. London will win out on the tower race. And Aragon hasn't been able to pick a wave up for about 3 minutes now.
That's fine. I mean, because if you look at the total gold, the teams are still even. And MNM haven't yet finished the start off, which they're now going to look to be doing. So, and they have 2 dragons in their pocket.
And they got a kill.
Yeah, so Aragon suffers, but MNM are coming out huge here. Now, counterpoint, the reason the gold is even is because Vango is, dominating mid lane. But now they've taken the tower, they're 1,000 gold ahead. And if we look at the individual gold values, you'll be able to see that there's only a 600 lead mid lane. So
there's only a 200 lead top lane. It's not like the gold lead is actually completely put Aragon behind Bertree. He's still relevant.
Yeah, I mean, Bertree just got killed there, which is a big factor as well. So, the 600, 700 gold lead mid, that you can factor out of this, okay? You can say, right, that's because Vango's been performing better. He got that kill early. But even without that 700 gold, MNM are still ahead of London. So that entire play, that play towards top side for London, all it has done is it has lost them a dragon. And in every other way, they've traded evenly. So quite a big mistake. And speaking of mistakes, Bertree...
He's overextended. The Slicing Maelstrom will lock him down. He does have a Tangerine to eat, but Vango slides and glides forward as Bertree, very, very low HP. The soldiers come down, and one more Q will stun him up. Easy kill for Vango. MNM just mop up another kill, and this should just be another turret for them as well.
And they see this as Azir as a win condition. They know they need a lot of consistent damage. So they're relying on him for it. And you actually saw that Aragon could have taken the kill, and he left it for Vango. So cementing this Azir as a big carry for them later on. Now, Dreampire and Harry are just going to hold mid. Pretty hard to dive against likes of the Maokai, but just get pulled in.
Yeah, it does have to flash away. Kick goes a little bit wide as they're stunned in place for the moment, and Chimera is able to mop the kill up. Beautiful Q by Raisins to make sure they get that. Trader Turrets does go down as Golden God gets bot side. Vango and Aragon are going to answer out in the top lane. And now, London have the members to contest this mid lane. They're going to get some tower damage down, but I don't think they've got the minion wave to actually get the tower itself.
Yeah, just a bit messy, though, from Dreampire. I mean, ultimately, I did say they're very hard to dive. That wasn't a dive. That was you walking up to the wave. So it does give a kill over to London. But as you said, turrets just been trading on both sides of the map. The end result is still seeing a lead for MNM. And critically, they have those 2 dragons in pocket. Next dragon is in a minute 45. That is going to be a big point for these 2 teams because I don't think London could afford to give another dragon over.
Golden God's going to go to the mid lane to go pick this up, but MNM rotating up towards that Rift Herald. MNM playing a very, very solid macro game here. I'm really enjoying this from them. They're challenging our 2nd seed currently. A team who are 1 win away from securing playoffs. MNM getting this win here will open up potentially 3 spots in the playoffs. If they lose here, there's only 2.
And that's the thing. Things do get really messy if London end up losing this one. Because winning that game tomorrow does not guarantee them playoffs. We could have a situation where we have a 4-way tie with 1-1 head-to-heads across the board. So it could get very messy in that scenario. Oh.
Dreampire finds Chimera, just goes for a light trade. Doesn't really have the people on his back. Shockwave comes down by Chimera. Dreampire has to throw down the ultimate to lock him in place, and he's on the run. Cannon Barrage gets used as well as Gdanica comes in. The railgun's too slow, and that's actually really poor timing by Dreampire. We'll have teleport in time for the dragon, and they do obviously have the Rift Tail to get them some mid lane prio. This does allow London to move into otherwise uncharted territory for MNM at the moment and get some vision down.
Yeah, it's a bit messy there from Dreampire. Again, this is 2nd time in a pretty short period where he's been caught out. Needs to play a bit more respectful. You may feel good because you're playing a Maokai with farm, but not good enough to go that aggressive. And he did die, but he has TP available to jump in. And you see MNM throw down the Herald mid, so they're going to use that to pressure. they're now going to push in towards this dragon.
Oh,
Nice
beautiful by Raisins. Does mean that the Tempered Fate's going to be down, but the charge goes out. The Rift Herald's just going to hold this mid lane tower. London are going to get a step up here as they will land out a bit of the CC coming out from Harry. Zeragon's just zoning Warden off, and MNM are just going to move up and get themselves their third dragon. Looks like London not going to be able to contest, and Dreampire is going to get tankier and tankier with an Ocean Drake at his back. This could be really, really scary for London. If Ocean Soul goes down, it is going to be really hard to deal with that. As Vango now zoning the members away. They are going to be able to take a tower out, but no shockwave available on Chimera. And Harry's just going to slow him down. Shuffle comes out on the back line there as Vango takes a lot of damage from Warden. Golden God looking to run away as Harry will take a true shot barrage. London have to back away with low health bars, but they were able to answer out with a turret in the mid.
Yeah, some heavy trading. Ultimately, London come out ahead in that scenario because they got the tower. They now have a gold lead, but they lost a dragon. And it was just beautifully played from MNM. Yes, the Herald didn't get a charge, but it forced someone from London to deal with it. And on top of that, they approached the dragon area, and they just forced London to move into that choke. And as soon as they moved through that, there was no way they were going to get back in. Guaranteed them the dragon. And now I'm looking at that 4-minute timer for the next one. At that point, London have to be confident enough to stomp a team fight. If they're not, this game could be extremely difficult.
The gold is very close between these teams. London are doing a good job to keep themselves relevant off the back of their tower rotations. You can't see the individual members' gold on your screen right now. It's 1,000 between Vango and Chimera. 500 between Aragon and Bear Tree. The AD carry is obviously a bit skew-if because Harry's not farming. He is just picking up the souls. Overall, Raisins has to be a little careful here. He's going to get CC. Tries to get away for the moment. The Tempered Fate will actually catch him as Dreampire. He gets baited out by the Magical Journey. Raisins, that was pretty big head of you.
These slick moves. Time is ticking, though. Ideally, we want Golden God to have his Triforce, which is a pretty big spike. So I'm looking at that, hopefully being completed from side of London before that dragon spawns. You can see that Vango is actually pretty close to getting the Nash's Tooth down. He's been able to pick up a lot of gold, and ultimately this is what happens when you're playing the Fasting Senna, is Senna isn't the most efficient at picking up waves. Dreampire definitely is not the most efficient at picking up waves, and it allows the likes of Godunica and Vango to pick up more farm than they would otherwise, so it can really accelerate them. You can see that Vango is blown past that 10 CS a minute point. Could end up having the Nash's Tooth available now. Actually, looks like he is going to go for a reset, and I think he is a bit short still. I believe. I'm trying to work out.
Remember?
Yeah, he's still short. He needs a bit more. So he can finish his Codex. Doesn't quite have the Nash's Tooth. Needs a bit more for that. But he has 2 minutes, you know? And if he gets that spike, that's a really good spot to be in for the Azir.
London collapsing in, though. Aragon does have teleport available to him, but there aren't actually any wards on the flank for him to actually go in. London, if you could quickly toggle back to their vision, actually do have a fair amount of vision to work with. Not too much on the southern side of the jungle, but they do have enough vision to feel comfortable to move through the mid lane, leaning side.
Yeah, but the problem is they've used all their vision control. They've pushed up. They've essentially moved in from the side lanes. And Aragon got to push that top wave out. Vango got to push that bot wave out. And now people are answering those. So we can see that people have moved actually to answer those waves. And this is now the window for MNM to push up and contest this vision. Because that sort of vision control is great if the dragon's about to spawn. But we're still a while away. But we actually see MNM not going to aggressively contest that vision. They're simply going to go for resets. So favoring spending their gold right now rather than necessarily going for the vision control, which could end up costing them, but ultimately does mean they're going to have some pretty powerful items in pocket.
Remember, MNM don't have to fight this. If they don't feel comfortable moving into this jungle and losing a team fight for this dragon, it's really not the end of the world for them. It's only one Ocean Dragon onto London. Obviously, it slows down the Ocean Soul, but Ocean Soul's not one that you, like, have to get up early. It's still effective in the later stages of the game. So they will slowly try
By effective, you mean broken, then yes.
Yes. I was trying to be optimistic. That's how I talk about these things. Harry? Take a lot of damage. Actually gets stunned up. True Shot Barrage. Chunked out as the Cannon Barrage will land onto him. And that's a good Tempered Fate onto Guernica and Dreampie into the Shockwave. The Railgun comes down. Aragon throws down the Slicing Maelstrom. Chimera has to go golden. Warden gets the kickoff as the chains connect into him. And Vango's able to get the kill. MNM just flipped the play around. Fine two as Warden comes in for the kick onto Vango. Looking for the shutdown. He gets shuffled back and slowed down. In comes Beartree trying to tidy up onto Greenfire as Beartree's able to take him down. Harry's healing the members up at the moment as Guernica takes a kick, takes a Q, takes everything, and Aragon misses out on the Protobell. Beartree stands in the middle of everyone as Harry lands on the chains. In comes Golden God looking to try and tidy up the Qs. Is able to find himself one. MNM have just been flipped back around onto London. Take the team fight.
And it was close at times. There was a huge re-engage, the combo from Vango and Guernica, the ult from Aragon. But ultimately, that fight was lost by Harry. Him getting picked at the start put MNM into an uphill battle and allowed London to take the opportunity. It's a nice execution there from them to follow up, and now they should just be able to pick up this Ocean Dragon and deny that soul.
MNM, it went from so good to so bad incredibly quickly. If Warden hadn't landed that kick onto Vango, he wouldn't have assassinated him.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that, right? I still think Trundle was the better pick, but Trundle can't do that. Trundle can't do that. So, pretty big play coming out from Warden. And that's sometimes
like you said, the Triforce. As soon as that came through, Golden God was able to take over the team fight.
And that's my concern is, you know, getting on top of Golden God, providing a threat for him, because London definitely were able to deal with Harry, but Golden God went unchecked in that fight, and that is my concern as this one goes by later and later. Now, Vango's fishing. Yeah,
they are looking. He sends the soldiers forward. The Slicing Maelstrom actually connects in. The Cannon Barrage is there. They use the Tempered Fate as Warden slides in. Shockwave's going to land, but it's not going to be enough. Collateral damage secures the kill, and Warden unable to find anyone this time. MNM fire back.
And they get everything I said about Golden God being safe. He oversteps, he gets caught out, and yeah, I mean, you have to at least make it a challenge for them. But MNM, they find a punish on a Golden God. Now, the big thing is they won't be able to secure a dragon, as obviously London took that one. But they will be happy with mid-tower. They're going to throw down the Azir turret just to extend some pressure. They're going to push into this red side jungle and establish vision control, because the next objective they're looking towards is that Baron. Not necessarily going to start it up right now, but it's the threat of it. It's the... Oh, never mind. They're going to start up right now. Okay, this is...
They are literally out to prove you wrong this game.
This is risky, I'm going to say.
It's fairly quick with the Azir. Warden's about. The True Shot Barrage is going to cut through them. No Cannon Barrage onto Beartree. Razors gets jumped onto. The Shuffle connects! Vango, that was gorgeous! They don't have that Slicing Maelstrom available onto Aragon, though, and Chimera about to get his Shockwave back, so MNM think the better of it. They find their pick, they step away. They're just going to get a blue buff and go for the base.
Worked out quite nice, the pick, honestly, but there was no way they could finish that Baron because Ezreal and Gangplank just so difficult to deal. I mean, Orianna as well. Just throwing constant damage threats into the pit makes it very difficult for you to finish a Baron there, but you got the pick. You lose a bit of pressure around mid, but a nice ult from Dreampire will just zone them away. Beartree eats some oranges and just gets out of that CC. But yeah, some nice moves from MNM.
Oh, no.
But that one was less nice from Chimera. Pretty slick from Vanguard, I'll say that. But I mean,
it was very close, but it didn't do anything. So
the thing is with the Orianna is the ult is actually quite a short cooldown, so you can't just fish for them. Like, it's already a quarter of the way off cooldown, so it's not, you're not losing out massively in that scenario. But yeah, hoping to land those ones. Now, Dragon up in 2 minutes. At this point, you sort of see a little bit of a move away from that Baron control, with Dragon being on sort of a close proximity. I feel like, honestly, MNM would be happy to trade the Dragon for the Baron, but there is still that tentativeness, the concerns of the scaling elements of London, where you don't necessarily want to have to do that. Even if you could, doesn't mean you want to. So, going to clear up some of the vision around this Baron area, just make sure that's secure. Could potentially even threaten to start it and bait them into a fight, but ultimately they will end up transitioning some more vision down towards that bot side, just to keep some eyes on the Dragon.
Gonna get complete control of the Baron areas. One actually slides forward, maybe looking to see if he can find Guernica. Not gonna be able to, though. Mid control being hotly contested by our two teams here. MNM will result getting ahead of it, though, as Chimera's actually in the bot lane, so 5 versus 4. MNM are just to strong arm their way through. Remember, though, that is their ward on the flank. Aragon doesn't have his teleport available to him yet. But with that ward up, there is always an option. There is always an opening for Aragon to go into the flank. Twisted Advance actually is going to get thrown down here. Harry zoned away for the moment, but a great ulti by Dreampire to make sure that nobody else can follow up on the Tempered Fate. But Dreampire may find himself caught out as the Railgun comes in for the shield. He's just got to follow up. Warden gets the kickoff, slides away from Vango's ultimate. Shockwave is enough to take out Dreampire. And London wrestle their way through, find a kill onto the tank.
Yeah, so lower HP bars for London, but ultimately the pick does come over to the side of them, so they have that advantage. But you can see Vango goes forward to chunk out Golden God. And it kind of means they're in a bit of a comfortable position in terms of health bars. Now, they're moving up towards the Baron as that's sort of a current threat. But they have time. Dreampire spawning in 10. He's got his TP available. I think you want to look towards this Baron. And right now, Vango having the tower up in the mid lane is pretty powerful at limiting enemy team. Now, MNM, I'm not sure I agree with starting the Baron in this situation, but I guess the thought process is London are so focused on this dragon. They won't true shot barrages, but they will. So they know you're doing it. They know it's on 9k HP.
Yeah, the jungler's actually on the other side. Warden's doing Ocean Dragon, trying to deny Harry coming in onto the flank. 4,800 health onto this Baron. It is going down exceptionally quick. Harry can look to try and get some damage off as Aragon got his ultimate available. That's the Baron picked up for MNM. Dragon will be answered out on the other side of the map as the Shockwave does connect. And Golden God looking to try and mop the fight up for the moment as Aragon's taken down as well. Tempered Fate narrowly misses out onto MNM. They're able to walk away with the Baron. Losing out, but Warden coming in for a flank onto Harry. Harry has to be careful. Gets himself the snare off. Warden lands the kick. Raisin's on the flank because the slows by Harry are just a little bit too much. And Chimera now maybe biting up a little bit too much there. Frozen Mallet does mean that Harry is going to be able to slow you. Baron picked up for MNM. They do contest out, though, and it's 2 Drakes on to London. Meaning this is starting to get a little hairy for MNM as far as the Dragon stacks are going.
Yeah, when you say, you know, okay, it doesn't matter if MNM give up a Dragon, it just stalls them. That's fine. I completely agree. But when you start giving away 2 for no reason, I'm a bit like, okay, come on, guys. You know, you could have had an Ocean Soul by this point. And my question was, why start the Baron there? You know, you had a TP coming in for Dreampire. You've been doing well in these team fights. You could have just contested the Dragon in that situation. And even if you flip it and you get the Smite, you're in a really good spot. You get the Soul. But instead, they go for the Baron.
Yeah. For me...
Ultimately, London... You know, I understand the thought process by sending Warden to the Dragon. Because basically, worst case scenario is you lose the fight and then they get Soul. And then the game's over. Right? So essentially, they hedged their bets by saying, Warden, you take the Dragon. They accepted they were going to lose the Baron there. I don't think they needed to. I think that was a little bit too safe from London. I think they could have just fought them a Baron and trashed them because they were already so low. But they did hedge their bets. But even so, they still managed to take 2 members out. They still managed to secure the Drake. I think London got out of that in a pretty comfortable position. And MNM, although they have the pressure now from this Baron, it will eventually fade.
For me, it's what they do with that time. It's how much they get. Because Aragon's been zoned out in mid lane, so they might just lose a tier 2 here. The MNM are looking to try and contest. Ultimate comes out by Dreampire as the Nature's Grasp is going to try and zone them away. The Cannon Barrage to try and thin out the wave, and the True Shot Barrage. They will lose a bot lane inhibitor turret. The Tempered Fate doesn't actually land onto anyone for the moment. Raisins is able to waste that. Warden coming in onto the flank, though, on the Lee Sin. Aragon's TP'd in to join out onto the rest of the team, and Railgun gets thrown down. Golden God takes a lot of damage, but the Redemption will heal him up. And Warden, he was on the flank, but he just wasn't there quick enough. And MNM do answer out with an inhibitor in the bot lane taken down for them. They're going to go for the resets, and we'll see what else they can gain here.
Yeah, so the inhibitor not too much of a concern when the Dragon is up, because it's quite close to it. But it will be when the Baron's available. And again, you know, I keep seeing these scenarios where these teams are just, I feel like, making the wrong decisions. I think MNM starting the Baron there was the wrong decision. I think London... pushing mid instead of defending was a wrong decision. I think if they'd held bot lane, they very easily could have denied this push coming out from MNM. And they ended up just sacking the inhibitor, which I think, honestly, was a bit of a mistake. So I think there's been some back and forth here. You can see there's quite a lot of pressure on these 2 teams, and it has cost both of them. Right now, we do see MNM still up in Dragons, but they are down on that gold. And it's 2 minutes till the next one. This is either going to be an equalizer for London, or it could finally be that soul for MNM.
MNM shoving up in this top lane for the moment. Warden looking for Gudanica. He is able to escape as Harry dodges away on the Tempered Fate. And MNM, they're just going to brute force top lane. If they can get at least if they can somehow squeeze an inhibitor out here in the top lane, it means they've got so much working for them. But that's not going to be the case for now. There are supers grouping up in the bot lane, though. And that's kind of got to be a little bit worrying as Raisins takes a little bit of poke. Dreampire as well can take a little bit back from Golden God. Golden God doing a lot of damage here. He's got the Blade of the Ruin King. He's got the Triforce. Mirror Man is fully stacked up. He is hurting on the Ezreal right now.
The thing is, right now, this move top lane favors MNM. They drag London up towards the start of the map. Now, London have to move down to catch that bot wave. MNM, as a result, can push mid, and they can rotate down towards that dragon to get control. So this was a smart play from them. Forcing London to react to the top side gives them a lot of space to work with around this dragon to clear out the vision. Now, my only concern is that we do see Vango in the top lane. I mean, Vango is... Yeah, he does have teleport to join. But ideally, you don't want the Azir joining late. He is such a massive part of MNM right now. Look at the farm differences between him and Aragon and Dreampire. It's just night and day. He is just so much of the gold right now, and he needs to be there. So he is TPing in now early. We have about 20 seconds on this dragon. And this could be the pivotal. This could be the pivotal fight for the entire game.
This is where the game could be decided. Teleport's coming in as well from Beartree. He's looking to join up as Chimera actually takes a little bit of damage from Vango. Has to burn the shield to try and stay up. They remain in control of the mid lane as the Tempered Fate does clip onto Gudanica. That's not great. They use everything, followed up by the railgun. Look for Vango on the flank. Aragon, massive slicing maelstrom. They kick him away, but Gudanic's there. Vango, you beast! MNM just annihilate London in the Baron, and they're just going to run it in for the win. They don't even need soul.
They got the super minions already. Aragon with a huge ult to just one-shot Golden God. No death stance, no MR. You're going down fast. And then the beautiful shuffle from Vango to follow up. There's a bit of back and forth in this game. We said it'd be close, but MNM are the ones who come true unless London find a miracle here.
MNM keeping their playoff dreams alive while also putting London in a precarious situation of potentially not even making playoffs. 33 minutes on the clock, and MNM take out London.
Seen a bounce back from MNM as a whole, as a team, and in particular Vango, who levied a lot of criticism in the past couple of weeks because he had that awful TF game, he had some rough performances, but he bounced back in that one, a huge driving force for the lineup, and we're seeing more variety with MNM. We saw this fasting Senna moving away from Harry being the hyper carry, and ultimately that last team fight was just an absolute pleasure to see, and it's sort of gaining back some points they needed because they obviously had a rough week last week. They dropped off a little bit in points, so are now tied up in that lower spot. They now have that point on the board. They're tied up with the likes of Demise, the likes of London, and still within a very good chance of making that playoffs.
That was a really, really good start for MNM. They have to play versus Barrage tomorrow, if I believe. Yeah, they're playing versus Barrage. Sorry, Barrage tomorrow, which is arguably an easier game than this one. And Vango stepping back up to the plate, having a really, really good performance on the Azir. I mean, that shuffle, obviously Aragon annihilated Golden God at the beginning of the fight, so there was no Ezreal. But that shuffle was what decided the end of that fight. At that point, the game was done, and it was really good to see them step up. It was nice to see Harry leaning away from these hyper carries and actually going in for the center so they could actually get himself a really nice bot lane. Overall, just a really, really good game for MNM, and they are now looking at potentially playoffs. They've got the hard game out of the way this week. I think that's fair to say. And over to London, they still got a bit of a rougher week. Tomorrow they have to play versus Enclave. Now Enclave did lose earlier today, pretty convincingly to Demise, but Enclave are up there. They are still in that middle pack, and they are still potentially a threat. So, man,
one critical thing is that MNM, the only team they had a losing head-to-head against was London, and they've now tied that. So they have a lot of tied head-to-heads, but securing that win against London, especially important because now it keeps London alive as someone who could end up lower than MNM, and that is the big factor here. That is what essentially these teams are fighting for. We have sort of 4 or 5 teams in the mix at the moment, 6 if you include Monster, potentially could be in the mix, and it's about trying to get them as low as possible and beneath you ultimately is the goal. And that's what these teams are looking for. Because even if you have made the playoffs, you're looking for those seeding, you're looking to get as high as possible, minimize the chances of facing one of the stronger teams. And MNM, a huge win for them there.
Massive win for MNM, but we are going to cut to a quick break. And when we're back, we'll have Aragon standing by for an interview. So we will see you in a second. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the UKLC. We do have Aragon standing by for an interview, but he is just getting himself readied up. So we can still take a little bit of time to talk about that game because that was close. That was a very, very close game. It looked MNM favored at the beginning, and then London pulled out some cool macro moves to keep themselves relevant. Then MNM slipped ahead again, and then London started picking up more and more dragons, and the threat became alive. And the Ocean Soul that we thought would be game deciding ended up not even coming down, and no one picked it up. It was a white knuckle ride, that game.
Yeah, and I feel ultimately we talked a little bit about how we're looking at MNM and the onus was on them to be finding these backline engages. Sometimes that can be really tricky. Apparently MNM just don't care. They found such a perfect engage from Aragon. The follow-up from Vango was beautiful. That is textbook what you want with that composition. And again, you're not always going to get that. But when you do, it can be game-winning, and it was. They stomped that team fight. As you said, Ocean Soul, no one even cares when the game can be finished. And it was just a huge win from them. And I think MNM has shown that they are often really good at playing to their win conditions and playing as a team. Now, we did have some unfortunate games, which was really more down to individual poor performances, I feel. But I think this is them looking like they're a bit more back on track.
I feel like that is the best time to find your form if you're MNM. you're still in the game, you're about to go into playoffs, and they just shoot out like this. If this is a consistent performance by them, I'm gonna be so excited to watch them over the next. Well, they've only got potentially one more game, depending on what happens tomorrow. But
they got playoffs.
Maybe got playoffs.
We'll see.
Maybe. I mean, oh, man, so close. We got Aragon standing by. Aragon, how you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks.
How do you feel after that win? That was quite important for you guys to get that. You keep a lot of teams' dreams alive by beating London there, because you deny London from locking playoffs. That's got to be a phenomenal win for you guys to get right now.
Yeah, it's a huge weight off my chest, honestly. We kind of underperformed last week. Combination of things, I don't know. Really unfortunate week. But yeah, for sure, I'm so happy we won.
What do you think changed between last week and this week then?
So last week was actually really unfortunate, a bunch of different reasons. I think we played maybe 3 games as a team last week because of, I think it was Harry. Harry got sick for a week and a half. So we were really behind the meta, because when you're not playing together, you're not discussing the game together. Just not playing together, you're getting rusty. I don't know. We just played bad. No excuses, but that's the reason, you know? So we had a full week of practice, and now we're a lot better, I think.
So obviously we saw the rise of Envision and Demise. Do you feel like either of those 2 teams are still significant threats to you, or do you think it was just you guys had an off week?
I actually think we threw. I think it was the Envision game. We actually threw versus them, I think. So honestly, I would say Demise looked really scary. I think they're on a 5-game winning streak or something obscene. No, for sure. Demise are really scary. They look really complete now as well.
Yeah, it does feel like quite a few of our teams are finding their forms as we approach the playoffs. Now, you guys aren't technically locked in yet, but if you can get a win tomorrow, I believe that's enough. I don't know. I let Orcs run the maths. That's his area. But let's talk about you guys actually making playoffs. Are there any teams that you're maybe excited to have a rematch versus, get some revenge, or what teams are you excited to play against?
I really want to play against Rifty, where in a matchup where, like, I don't know, in a scenario where I can contest, because last week I ended draft by picking Orn into Silas, I don't know. But I want like a proper skill matchup, bruiser on bruiser sort of thing. That's what I want to do. And I also want to play against DBL. I always enjoy playing against him. So well, Rifty, Monster and Demise.
When we spoke to Rifty, I think a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we asked him what kind of top laners, what top laners he had his eyes on, and as people to look out for, and he did highlight you. So he obviously pays a lot of respect to you, and he did dumps you in that last matchup. So maybe that'll be enough. Right. Thank you very much for joining us, Aragon, and good luck for all the future games coming up, and hopefully making playoffs. Congratulations on the win once again.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Right, guys, that is a really big win for MNM, and that blows everything open for the next 6 games we got of the regular split. So
also, just to quickly answer the question, MNM can still end up in a pretty heavy tie situation.
There's still stuff out of their hands, basically.
Yeah, so I mean they still need to keep trucking on. The head-to-head's pretty even with everyone, so they need to try and ensure they have a significant lead.
Well, guys, we're going to be getting ready to go into game number 3, but before that, we do have a quick break. It's going to be Barrage Academy taking on Bulldog, so we'll see you in a second.